Welcome to our sessions on artificial intelligence. So in the previous session, we just learned about the basics of K-means clustering and how the K-means clustering algorithm actually works. So the working of algorithm, we dealt with how points are selected in random and how we are able to establish the clusters, then moving the centers, then determining the value of K. So in a nutshell, we just learned about the entire working of K-means algorithm and how exactly clusters are being formed. So today what we'll be dealing with is working on a real life data set. So working on a real life data set meaning that we'll take in a real life data set and we'll try to form the clusters here. So if you want to look at the data set that we are taking in today, so you can see the data set, it is called as mall customers data set. So this data set is having most of the information regarding the mall customers. So you can see that the first column is nothing but my customer ID. Customer ID is meaning that there are some customers, so you need to find out the numbers. So the numbers in which they are arranged is called customer ID. So that is one part. Then coming to the genre, so genre we have both male and female genre. So that is what we are considering here. So male and female genre are the people who are buying the stuff. So are they male or are they female? That is the second column. Third column we have the age of the person. So age of the person meaning that what is the age group or what is the exact age of the person who is buying some items in the mall. So that is the third column. Coming to fourth column, it is annual income in $1,000. So K is nothing but 1,000. So annual income in $1,000. So that is telling us how much a person earns annually in $1,000. So 50 means $15,000, 16 means $16,000. So that is represented in $1,000. So then we have some spending score. So what is spending score is nothing but on the degree of how much you spend, you are graded between a number from 1 to 100. So that is like how we give a review of 1 to 5 stars. So similarly, the mall authorities or the mall management have given people the spending rating from 1 to 100. So what is 1 to 100 spending rating telling you? It is telling that how much a person spends. So if it is close to 100, then it is he's spending the max. So if he is close to 1 or 2, then he doesn't spend anything at all. So that is what is the spending score. So what we'll be doing in this particular tutorial is we'll be using these two columns, that is annual income and spending score. So then we'll try to make clusters. So we'll try to make clusters and understand how actually people are spending with respect to their annual income. So if the annual income is so much, what is their spending score and how do they form clusters? So the main thing that we'll realize in this example or tutorial is based upon the annual income, you can decide how much a person spends. So if the annual income of a person is so much, we can decide upon how much of money he spends during his visit to a supermarket or a mall. So that is what we'll be discussing right now. So starting off with the programming, guys, it is pretty simple. So we have our program. So this program, you can start coding. So to start coding, we need to import our libraries. To import our libraries, pretty simple. Starting to import our libraries, we need few libraries. So we need our pandas. So import pandas as PD. So why PD? It is a alias name that you can give to the library. So import pandas as PD. We need pandas library. Then we need to import our matplotlib. So why we need matplotlib is to see the clusters. So whenever we draw clusters, we want to see it in the form of a graph. So that is why we need matplotlib. So in matplotlib, we won't be using the entire library. We have matplotlib.pyplot. So that is nothing but a small part of matplotlib library as PLT. So this is what I will be taking in now. So then I need to import my other library, that is NumPy library. Why do I need NumPy? Because it involves all the numbers that are being generated. So all those numbers that are being generated in machine learning algorithm. So in the scikit-learn library that we use to define our classifier, so we will need that particular library to deal with numbers. So that is what we are using right now. That is your NumPy library. But these libraries are sufficient, but we need another library, that is sklearn. So we'll initialize it as we use it. So that is the next thing that we'll do. So the next step is very simple. So data set is the data variable which will store the data of our CSV file. So pd.read_csv. So this is the command. So what is my CSV name? So my CSV name is mall_customers.csv. So M is caps, So mall underscore customers. So again C is capped here. So dot CSV. So this is the name of the particular CSV file. So after reading our CSV file using pandas library, we need to print whether we have our library or not. So to print our library, we will print our data set which contains all the libraries, all the data of the library. So but we need to save it in the location. Make sure that your program as well as your data all are in the same folder. So my folder contains small customers underscore CSV, so that is fine. So now I can save this and I can run the program. So after running the program, it is easy for me to understand if all the data has appeared. So if the data has appeared, obviously you would get all the data on the Python window. Yes, you can see that the data has appeared. So we have successfully imported the CSV file and we have stored in our particular data set. So this is done. So the next thing we need to concentrate on is the two columns. So which are the two columns I told you? The two columns that we'll be using is nothing but our annual income and spending score. So based upon it, we'll be forming some clusters and we'll try to understand if the person is earning so much, what would be his spending score. That is what we are going to learn from this. So to take in the data, that is very simple. You can use your X as nothing but a variable to store the data of two columns. So here it is different from your other algorithms, because in other algorithms you would use the data that is nothing but you would use your X data and Y data. You would try to predict Y when you have your X data, or you would try to classify Y whether it belongs to a diabetic person, non-diabetic. Then similarly you would take in classification into picture. So now we don't take in classification into picture, we are just forming clusters. That is why we will just have X, so we will not have any Y. So you can take in the data that is nothing but from the data set. We need to take in which columns you need to understand right now. We need to take in 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we need 3 and 4 columns here. So dataset.iloc is a function in pandas to take in the columns as well as row. But we will take in all the rows, but we will specifically take in third and fourth column. That is why I am entering it in the form of list. So now I have the third and fourth column, but I need to use the values of it. I don't need the column number, column heading and all. So I just take in the values. So this is how my data is getting initiated. So this is one method. So what I can do is I can use my hash to comment out this. So if I want to print something, I can use my print statement. So print X. So you can see here when I printed X, I can get all the data of my third and fourth column. So what is my third and fourth column? Third column is indicating it is annual income. Fourth column it is indicating the spending score. So I can get these two columns in line. So that is what I did right. So you can see that we just printed our X value. So now we have taken in the third and fourth column values. But the next step would include calculating the best value of K. So in order to do your K-means clustering, you need to calculate the best value of K. So then only you will be able to make your K-means clustering algorithm proper. So to calculate your K-means cluster, that is nothing but best value of K's or the best fit of K. So what would you try to do is pretty simple. So to calculate best value of K, we have the method of elbow method. So in the last tutorial, I just help you learn about elbow method. What is elbow method? Elbow method is nothing but a plot of variance versus your K value. So what is variance? How your values are distributed among the various use cases that you have. For example, if you have blue colored balls, red colored balls and pink colored balls, so how your data is getting clustered among these three. So if some values will have more data in their cluster and some values will have less data in their cluster, so then the variation is not proper. So then the variance is not good. So variance means the data which you have should be rightly divided among the different clusters. So that is how it decides the correct variance. So we need to plot a graph of variance versus R, nothing but different values of K. So how do we plot it? So we can't plot it directly, we can't calculate our variance directly. In order to calculate our variance, we need to apply our K-means clustering algorithm. So how do we apply K-means clustering algorithm? So you need to use your sklearn. So from sklearn dot cluster import K-means. So this is nothing but we are importing our K-means. So K is caps, M is caps, so we have imported K-means. So that is why you need to import your K-means algorithm. So as I already told you, to calculate our elbow method, so what we need to do is pretty simple. So to calculate our elbow method, we need to calculate the variance for different value of K. So then plot it with the value of K. So we'll have different values of variances and different values of K. So when we plot them together, so we will get a curve. So whenever we are having this curve, we need to understand where we get the elbow. So elbow is nothing but a sudden variation in your data. So the point where you get the sudden variation is the right value of K. So that is how you choose the value of K. So we need to actually calculate the variances for different values. So variance can also be named as within clusters sum of squares. So WCSS is the shortcut you can use for variance, or you can use variance. So this will be an empty list because we need to calculate the variance for different values of K. So we will try the range of K from 1 to 10. So if you want to try the value of K from 1 to 10, so we will keep an iterating variable called I in the range 0 to 11. So 0 to 11, 1 to 11, because it starts from 1 and ends at 10. So 11, even though if you mention 11 also, 11 will not be included. The last number will not be included. So we are having an iterating variable that is nothing but K. So K varies from 1 to 10. So why are we doing this? We need to calculate our variance values. So we need to calculate our variance values. We cannot calculate directly. So we need to calculate our we need to apply the K-means clustering algorithm. Then from that we need to calculate the variance values. So how do we do that? So I've created an empty list called WCSS. So this empty list is also called as variance list. So this list is empty now. Once I apply K-means algorithm for a range of K is equal to 1 to 10. So then I can calculate, or I can take in the values of variances and store in this WCSS. So currently it is empty. But now I need to apply my K-means algorithm. So how to apply K-means algorithm? So first thing is I need to initialize the function. So how to initialize K-means function? So I have renamed the K-means function as small letter K-means. So then I am applying the algorithm K-means. So in this algorithm what I need to do is I need to tell what is the cluster number. So what is the cluster number I am using? So the cluster number I am using here is I. Why? Because I is varying from 1 to 10. So that is the cluster number I will be using. So then I have another variable called init. So which I need to mention as K-means plus plus. So what is this K-means plus plus is? So as I told you, whenever a different value is coming for making a cluster. So whenever you want to form clusters, there will be points that will be in this, there will be random points which will be put in the data. So those random points will try to form clusters. So after forming clusters, they will be shifted towards the mean of all the points that are there. So choosing of the random points, if you give it as K-means plus plus, then the random points will be chosen automatically. So you don't need to choose the random points on your own, or you don't need to give the coordinates. So the random points will be chosen automatically if you give init is equal to K-means plus plus. So then you need to mention what is the maximum number of iterations. So maximum number of iterations is telling you how many iterations you need to do. Iterations in the sense, as I told you, the random point that we place inside the data will not be the accurate point. So we need to do it for hundreds of times to get the correct point and to form the right clusters. So how many times iterations must be done? I will choose it as 300. So all these are like user given values. You can change it to anything else. Then you need to tell how many values of K are you trying to calculate. So how many number of K values you are trying to initiate. So the initiation values or initializing value is 10. So that is telling you maximum number of K values that you are using. So since we are using K values as 10, so that is why we are initializing n initializations as 10. So That is the thing that we did. Then one more parameter, that is random state. So random underscore state, I need to also mention the random state. So what is random state? So while doing this k-means clustering, all the data in your data set will not be taken. Some values will be chosen for initialization as well as carrying out this algorithm. So that is why you need to give this random state. So what is random state telling you is those values which will be chosen for applying this k-means clustering algorithm. So those values will be taken randomly. So whenever you give a random state is equal to 0, then random values that are taken will not change during the next iteration. So they will remain the same during the next iteration. So that is what your random state is equal to 0 doing. So very important, random state is equal to 0 tells that once we choose the random values for putting in our algorithm, so those random values will not change during the next iteration. So it will remain the same. So if you don't give random state also it works. But the thing is, one thing you need to understand is even though it works, the main thing is different values will be initialized during different iterations. So we don't need to work with different values each and every time. That is why we assign a random state. So this is how I initialize a k-means function. So now function is initialized, but I need to apply my k-means algorithm to the data. So which data shall I use now? I need to do the x data. So I need to use this x data to tell that I am using or I am applying my k-means algorithm to the data. So x is the data where we need to fit the algorithm. What is fitting? I am making the algorithm learn from the data, or I am training the algorithm. So how is the training happening? You need to fit your algorithm to some data. So what is the data that you are fitting? You are fitting it to x. So what is x? X contains the two columns, annual income in $1,000 and as well as a spending score. So this is what we will be doing. So what this will do is, it will try to calculate the variance, it will try to calculate the cluster center. So each and everything it will calculate. But as far as we are concerned, what we need now is nothing but we need just the variance value. So we need to store the variance values and we need to draw the elbow graph. So how to draw the elbow graph is nothing but we need to store variance values. So once we know the variance values, so WCSS is just an empty list which is storing the variance values. WCSS.append. So list.append, it adds something to a list. So since the list is empty, we need to append something. What will append? The values of variance. So how do you get the variance value? It is nothing but using the function called as k-means.inertia. So k-means.inertia will using this particular feature. So this feature will enable us to get the variance value. So now WCSS has the variance. So this has all the variance for k is equal to 1 to 10. So this is how we apply k-means and calculate the variance. So the next part is pretty simple. We need to plot the graph. So how will I plot the graph? Using my matplotlib. So plt.plot is the function to plot. So what will I plot? I need to plot k versus my variance value. So k is nothing but 1 to 10. So it is in the range from 1 to 11. So what is being done now? It is just taking in the range of values from 1 to 10. So now I plotted this graph. So now I need to tell what is this title of the graph. So plot.title will be elbow method. So elbow method will be the title. So then what is the x label? Plot.x label will be my k values. So plot.y label will be my variance values. So now if I want to show the plot, plot.show. So this is what will happen. So now, okay, there is an error, slight error. Okay, from sklearn it is import k-means. Sorry guys, this is a small error. So import k-means will import the k-means algorithm. So you can just see what is exactly happening because we want to see the graph here. So that is what we are interested in. So that is the elbow method where we try to fetch the best value of k. So right now you can see in this graph the elbow method. So elbow method, what we have done, we have plotted the variance versus our k values. So you can see from this graph, there are two elbows actually. So one is a small elbow and the other one is a big elbow. So what is exactly happening is, when I am plotting my k values against my variance, so at the point k is equal to 3, there is a small elbow that is created. But at a point k is equal to 5, you can see the extent. See here the graduation is, it is decreasing, the variance is decreasing. But here it tries to become flat. So like you can imagine your elbow of your hand and imagine how it is exactly in the shape of your hand elbow. So this is the point where actually the variance is becoming flat and there is no major changes. So this value is nothing but the elbow point. So k is equal to 5 is the elbow point. So the optimum value of k is 5. So you need to choose the value of k is equal to 5 for your algorithm. So this is how you calculate the elbow method and perform the algorithm and try to determine the optimum value of k. So this is the method to do it. Okay, coming back to our program, so we now got to know that the best value of k is 5. So again we need to initialize the k-means algorithm. So why we need to initialize this k-means algorithm was done to all values of k. Now I don't need to do it for all values of k. I need to choose for the value of k that is nothing but my value, that is for k is equal to 5. So to use it for k is equal to 5, what you will do is the same statement you can use. Instead of n clusters is equal to I, you can use n clusters is equal to 5. So that will tell you that the algorithm that you have used, I mean the k-means clustering algorithm, the value of k is nothing but 5. So you have chosen the 5, rest all will remain the same. So no need to make any changes. So this is now nothing but k-means algorithm that has been initialized for k is equal to 5. So the number of clusters that you are initializing is k is equal to 5. So what we will try to do next is, we will try to, since we have all, we should try to fit the data. So what data we need to fit? K-means dot fit. So now it is not, okay, what we will do is, we will try to fit the data, but after fitting also we need to do some more things. So what is the thing that we need to do here is, we need to predict the data also. What is the thing that we need to predict is, we need to also predict what is the cluster does it belong to. So how many clusters we have right now? We have the clusters of nothing but 5 clusters we have. But it doesn't start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we'll try to do is, we'll try to store this k means underscore fit dot predict under a variable called as y underscore k means. So this y underscore k means is nothing but a variable which will store the predicted values of our x. So what will this predict is, what k means will predict, it is not a classification algorithm, it doesn't predict classes 0 or 1. It is not a regression algorithm where it doesn't predict any future values also, but this is a clustering algorithm. So whichever x data that has been taken for testing, so what it will do is, it will try to predict which cluster does this belong to. So you can print out y underscore k means. So you can print out y underscore k means to understand what is the data that is being printed. So right now you can see 433102. What is this 433102 is nothing but the k values which you have chosen. So what cluster does this k value belong to is depicted by this particular y underscore k means. So y underscore k means is a variable that will store the details of which cluster does this data belong to. So the cluster which this data belongs to is stored under this y underscore k means. So that is what this particular variable is storing. So earlier we just fit the data, but we are fit underscore predict. What it is doing is, after fitting the data, it is predicting which all clusters my data is belonging to. So this is very important. So now y underscore k means data, it has many things under its way. So one thing is, it tells which data is belonging to which cluster. So after doing that, it must also tell what is the coordinate points of those particular data. So it needs to have x and y coordinates of the particular data that we have. then it must do other thing also. So it must try to predict which cluster does it belongs to. So very important. So it is now having the cluster data and it is trying to predict our data. So this all the data we have in k means y underscore k means. Next thing is plotting the data. So what data we need to plot? We need to plot each and every cluster data. So how do we plot it? We'll use the scatter plot. So scatter plots will plot each and every single data. So how do we use scatter plots? Plot.scatter will plot each and every data. But what we need to do is we need to print out the data, that is nothing but we need to have x and y data. So what is the x and y data we'll have is pretty simple. So we need to have the data of the cluster. So the x and y coordinate of each and every point in the cluster. So how do we get the x and y coordinates of each and every point in the clusters is this y underscore k means we'll have information about the clusters. So it needs to print out all the details of the clusters and we need to identify which is the cluster that is being formed. So how to print the clusters? It is pretty simple. So you have the x, that is the whole data set. So in x you have y underscore means. So in under x we will take in the y underscore k means double equal to 0 comma 0. So this is telling that all the x values of the particular cluster. So very important to understand. So we'll have in any k-means clustering algorithm that we will be doing, we'll have two values. So what is the values that we'll have is, we'll have the x values as well as the y values. So what is the x value? So whenever you're plotting the points, you need two coordinates, x and y coordinates. So each and every x and y coordinate belonging to the cluster 0 that we will plot. So since we have 5 clusters here, we need to plot for each and every cluster. So 0 comma 0 will give you the x coordinates of the particular data. 0 comma 1 will give you the x coordinate of the particular cluster. So which cluster are we choosing now? We are choosing the 0th cluster. So since we are choosing the 0th cluster, we are having the 0th cluster x coordinate values, the 0th cluster y coordinate values. So this is one thing. So then we tell the size. So size of the scatter plot. So it will be 100. So then the color will be red. So after color is red, we need to give the label also. Label will be cluster 1. So this is the thing that we will do. So now you can see how I have plotted the different graphs. So you can see that 0 comma 0 is 0 in the first indices, meaning that it is the cluster. So 0th cluster x coordinate, 0th cluster y coordinate, size is 100, color is red, label I have given it as cluster 1. So similarly, first cluster x coordinates plus first cluster y coordinates. So second cluster x and y, third cluster x and y, fourth cluster x and y. So this is how I have plotted my scatter plots for each and every cluster. So I have given different colors so that we can understand this. So then we need to plot the graph. So before plotting the graph, we need to add the legend. So why legend? So legend will give you an information stating that which cluster belongs to which color belongs to which cluster. So that is the information given by the legend. So then you can use this plot.show option to see which is the cluster being formed. So you can see that you can just wait for the graph to appear, so which will help you understand how clusters are being formed. So this graph will give you a better idea of how the clusters are being formed. So right now you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clusters being formed of different colors. So with this, what is the thing that we will try to understand? So guys, your x-axis is nothing but the salary that a person will get in $1,000. So $20,000, $40,000, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000. So y-axis is nothing but your spending score, that is from 0 to 100. So what you need to understand from this data set is pretty simple. What you can visualize from this data is people who are getting lesser salary, that is in the range from 0 to $30,000. So their spending score is less. So you can see that their spending score is less. But some of the people's spending score is also high. So in $20,000 to $30,000 salary yearly, some people are spending very less and some people are spending very high. Similarly, if you come to people who are getting very high salaries from $80,000 to $100,000, you can see people spending very less and people spending very low. But in the case of middle class people, so people who are getting salaries from 40 to around 60 to $70,000. Their spending is always medium, 40 to 60 spending score. So they're not spending too high also, they're not spending too low also. So this is the thing that you need to understand from the data. So this is how data analytics works, or machine learning will help you understand something out of the data. If you just have some data, you won't realize what is happening with the data. So once you form these kind of clusters, you are able to see what is exactly happening with all your data. So this is very important to understand in the case of this example. So spending scores are analyzed here. This is the legend. So one more thing we forgot. So as I told you, each and every cluster will have a cluster center. So the formation of cluster center also we can plot by using plot.scatter. So then using k-means.cluster, so you can use k-means.cluster underscore centers. So here also you will have how many cluster centers? 5 cluster centers, because there are 5 clusters here. So we'll plot the x-axis, so you can plot the x coordinates here. So then similarly you need to plot the y coordinates as well. So the same things you can use. Instead of 0 you can put 1. So that will plot the x and y coordinates of each and every cluster center. So how many cluster center you have? Cluster center is 5 cluster centers due to the 5 clusters that are formed. But we need to make some sense here. So I will increase the cluster center size to 300. So I have increased it to 300. Then what I need to do is I need to choose a color. So color I will choose it as yellow now. So color has been chosen. Then I will use the label. So label is equal to centroid. So I can use this as centroid. So it will form a bigger circle with the label. So label will be centroid. So k-means clusters, cluster centers, 0 is indicating x coordinates of all the cluster center. 1 is indicating y, size is 300, color is yellow, and you are trying to draw the center. So this will give you the cluster center of all the data. So you can see the elbow, then you have your graph. So now you can see these yellow colored circles that are your cluster centers. So these are our centroids of the particular cluster. So how are these formed? Actually they will not be here, they will be in some other points. But once you calculate the cluster, what happens is mean of all these points will be calculated. So my data point will be shifted to that particular center, so that hence my cluster centers are determined. So this was the tutorial on k-means clustering. I hope you have enjoyed the sessions on k-means clustering. Please do it with other data sets. Gain more insights. The more you practice, the more you understand. So please do it with other data sets and try to establish different clusters of data. So thank you guys, and I hope you had a wonderful session. I'll upload the code as well as the data set so you can try it out. So thank you guys.